Hi Krishna. Oh, some signal issues. Hi Krishna Naamamrita.
Haribol.
Haribol. Can you hear?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
All good?
Yeah. You get it, but it breaks up a little bit on your side over there.
Okay.
But
Sorry.
now you seem okay.
I don't know if it might.
And now it's alright.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think when my internet connection is not the best. Anyway, it's a 4G, but it has its moments.
Okay, I just put my volume up here. Okay, cool. So thank you so much for joining us this Saturday's Bhakti Book Club, and welcome to whoever may be viewing and later on will view the video later. So we're very excited this morning to have Naamamrita reading with us and sharing his reflections. He's going to be reading from Signal. He's going to be reading from Radhanath Swami's book, Journey Home. And some of you may have read the book before about Maharaj's journey in his youth to India. So we're very excited to be hearing from that book again. I read it. I like the book a lot myself. And so just a bit of an intro for Naamamrita. Many of us already know him, but just in any case, he's been practicing bhakti for about 30 years, and so he joined when he was a teenager, and he formally accepted as spiritual master in 2006. He is by profession a network technician, so he's into internet and all of those kind of things. And he's also an excellent cook and an excellent baker. He also has his own business where he makes a traditional sweet preparation called shrikant. And he also likes traveling. So hopefully he'll be sharing a bit about his travels to India with us today as well. So with that, we're happy to be hearing from Naamamrita reading from Radhanath Swami's book, and I'll also get my copy as well so I can follow. So over to you.
Okay. Hari Bol, Hare Krishna. Hello, nice people out there. Thank you very much for this opportunity to do the reading. I'm not an excellent cook, like she says. I'm a practicing cook. She's an excellent cook, though.
Oh.
Anyway, yeah, one of the things I like to do, I like cooking. I love traveling. Just got back from India to date 1 year. Exactly. Ha, how's that? And coincidentally, I did go to the place that Radhanath Swami is going to be speaking about in his reading. Yeah, so I'll just get into it. What do you guys say, right? We'll start. So, the book, The Journey Home by Radhanath Swami. We're on page 107 for those of you that have the book and want to read. Just a little bit of a intro here. So, Richard Slavin, also known as Radhanath Swami, is in India now towards the end of 1970. He's landed himself in Delhi, and he's about to make his way up to Rishikesh. So he's there's going to be a change in his life now. He's embarking on his journey. Yeah, this is where it actually starts now. So he's making his way up to Rishikesh, and he gives us a brief description of his journey up there. He lands in Haridwar first, and then he walks 15 miles. I don't know how long that is. I think it's 20 kilometers or something on foot to Rishikesh. And tell you, from my last travel, that's not an easy walk. I can tell you that. And in 1970, it must have been worse. Anyway, he comes up to Rishikesh, and he meets Swami Chidananda from the Divine Life Society. And he stays in the ashram for a month, and then he leaves. But just shortly before leaving, he writes a letter to his mother, just keeping them in touch about where he is and his resolution to do what he set out to do in the East, and that was to find the true meaning of life. That was the last line of his letter. So, page 107, Radhanath Swami writes. Okay, old age is catching up, so I'm going to use my thing here. I boarded a crowded boat to cross to the eastern side of the Ganges. Large fish swarmed around the small vessel as we sailed across the sparkling aqua current. A cool breeze swept over me. With deep breaths, I drank it in, listening to the hypnotic chants of students reciting the Vedas or holy scriptures on the riverbank. Reaching the other side, I walked alone southward along the bank of the Ganges in search of solitude. Finding a quiet place, I meditated, feeling myself millions of miles from the world I knew. Hours later, I spotted someone approaching. Pacing slowly was a holy man with a golden complexion. Grey beard, hair draped down to his shoulders, and robes that rippled in the mountain breeze. He radiated tranquility. That, by the way, is no exaggeration. That's exactly what happens in the Ganges. I stood to receive him. Raising his soft, wide eyes, he spoke. You do not know who I am, but I know you. I have been observing your determination. Now, offer the clothes you wear to the river Ganges, and today I will award you the cloth of a sadhu. What is a sadhu? I asked. A sadhu is a wandering mendicant who has forsaken worldly attachments to pursue a divine life. Or you may just say, a monk. On the bank of that holy river, he presented me with 2 pieces of unstitched white cloth made of thin cotton. He showed me how to wrap 1 piece around the lower part of my body to form a lungi, and 1 piece around the upper part to form a chadar. Then he gave me a loincloth of 2 strips of cotton called a kaupan. Honored to receive this gift from such a kind soul, I placed my western clothes into the river's sweeping current and offered a prayer. My turtleneck and jeans were gone forever. So at that point, that's basically what he was wearing from his travel from America to India. Turtleneck and jeans the whole way through. Just to give you an idea. Before departing, the man whispered something in my ear. Given the letter I had just written home, I found it uncanny. The Ganges will be your mother, he said. She will reveal this to you in time. A few days later, I came upon Veda Niketan, a small, lonely, one-story ashram made up of a dozen austere rooms. The residents, like many people I was meeting, were preparing to go to Kumbh Mela, the biggest religious festival in all of India. When I heard 20 million people are going to be there, I decided to stay behind. Not far behind Veda Niketan, I found a cave in the forest where I made my residence. Each morning before sunrise, I walked back to the Mother Ganges and looked out into her swift current. She was perhaps 100 yards wide at this spot, her riverbank covered with soft, silvery sand, like jeweled ornaments of multicolors, smooth rocks ranging from tiny pebbles to boulders, weighing thousands of pounds, lined her banks. Feeling unworthy of the treasures I sought, I felt a desperate need for purification. Then and there I resolved that for 1 month I would sit in silence and prayer from sunrise to sunset. I prayed to have a spot revealed. Just then, before my eyes, I noticed a series of small rocks in the river. They formed a natural bridge to a much larger, somewhat flat rock about 20 feet from the bank. This rock was to become my cherished place. I would sit on it every day, from sunrise to sunset, surrounded on all sides by the forceful current of the Ganges. In that incredible panorama, I felt so tiny. At dusk, as I returned to the cave, I passed an old man who sat on the ground selling miniature carrots displayed on a piece of old burlap. As I passed, he would offer me one. Ganges water and 1 carrot a day, I decided, would be the only food for 30 days. The solitude of that rock became my shelter. I sat from dawn to dusk facing upstream. To my left, on the opposite bank, I could see in the distance an occasional yogi sitting in meditation. To my right stretched the beautiful Himalayan foothills. The closest mountain took the shape of a heart at its very top. I gazed on it for hours, thinking of how it symbolized for me the heart of God. A heart that is unlimited, giving ultimate shelter to all beings. A heart that is majestic and beautiful. Just as in climbing a mountain, we leave behind the earth where we stand. To reach the heart of God, we have to leave behind unfavorable earthly attachments. Sincere spiritual practice is an uphill climb, and no matter how many difficulties we face, we have to continue looking upward with hope. The mountain provides all support for those who strive to reach its top. Similarly, if we are sincere, the Lord will provide us with a means to reach His supremely merciful heart. Spread out around me on all sides was Mother Ganges in her winter dress of sparkling, undulating aqua. Her waves rippled and swirled as if intoxicated by her own beauty. No human artist could capture even a moment of this unending display. And just as her art was created, it simultaneously disappeared. I took from this a lesson. All beautiful forms of this world are in the process of transformation. Nothing is stable. With every moment, our reality is changing. Mother Ganges, like nature, is constant, but no manifestation of hers remains. Likewise, all that we hold dear in this world is imperceptibly vanishing. We cannot cling to anything, but if we can appreciate the beauty of the underlying current of truth, we can enjoy the waves of joy and sorrow. I sat, a submissive student, trying to learn from my teacher. She begins her course from high in the Himalayas and flows without cease to the sea. Innumerable obstacles, huge rocks, fallen trees, or even mountains block her way, but nothing will stop her journey to the sea. Gracefully, she flows over, under, or around all obstructions. Mother Ganges teaches us that if we want to attain the sea of our aspiration, we must persevere in our goals and never be discouraged by the inevitable obstacles that come on our path. All impediments are like rocks in the river of life. We should flow around them and never give up. With the Lord's help, there's always a way. As I sat on that rock, I imagined that watching the flow of the river was like watching the passing of life. If one is inside the river, one is greatly affected by it. But if one sits on the bank, one can observe it with detachment. Mother Ganges teaches us that if we learn to be detached from our ego and the flurry of the mind, senses, and the world around us, and observe life with a sober disposition, we gain wisdom. After the sunset, each evening I returned to my cave in the forest and contemplated the gifts of the day. One day I thought about how millions of years of history had been enacted on these banks. The Aryans, spirituality flourished. Alexander the Great came and went. Then the Mughals conquered North India, ruled for centuries only to be vanquished by the British Empire, which was eventually driven away by Mahatma Gandhi, Subhash Chandra Bose, and the Indian freedom movement. Slavery and freedom, political conquest and defeat. Like the seasons, they had all come and gone. Through it all, timeless Mother Ganges patiently flowed toward the sea. Truth, too, was unchanging. Whatever may happen in this world, however dramatic, it could not disturb the flow of truth. Many objects, I observed, were swept along in the current. Among them leaves, flowers, uprooted trees, a dead buffalo, and even a human corpse. If an object remained in the river's flow, I reflected, it would eventually be carried to the sea. But in the course of time, most things would be diverted to the banks and their progress halted. The spiritual path and the spiritual teacher are like the current of Mother Ganges, and the students are like the objects carried along the river. If the follower remains faithfully in the current of the holy teachings, he or she will be carried to the ocean of spiritual truth. But many temptations and diversions appear along the banks, promising comfort and happiness, tempting the follower to come out of the current that leads to one's heart's aspiration. Not all aspirants will remain faithful, but those who do can reach the ocean of enlightenment. I wondered, who will be my teachers, and can I remain faithful? Early one morning, just before sunrise, as I looked downstream into the current that never slept, I considered her 1,000-mile journey, falling, and each drop of water patiently flowed in the current to her ultimate destination, so far away. Mother Ganges is teaching me that patience and steadfastness are required to follow my calling. I never really stopped to think why I had left behind the promises of the world, to sit alone on a rock in the Ganges and endure a rigorous self-imposed fast. Why did I act in such extreme ways, like a person obsessed? At the time, I did not feel that these were my choices. I felt a mysterious hand of destiny leading me forward. One brisk winter day, while absorbed in meditation, sweet harmonica melodies began to play in my mind. Just a little bit of background here. Radhanath Swami was an avid harmonica player. Carried the harmonica with him from America all the way to India. Played it all the time. His dearmost friend. So this is important. Okay, so one brisk winter day, while absorbed in meditation, sweet harmonica melodies began to play in my mind, drawing my attention away from anything else. My consciousness flowed irresistibly towards that imaginary music. Concert after concert was performed within the theater of my mind. A longing impelled me to reunite with my beloved harmonica. which I had not played since arriving in India. Every day, from before sunrise until after sunset, I had remained faithfully on my cherished rock. But this day would be different. An urge pulled me away, and leaving behind the rock and river, I returned to my cave to play. As I lifted the harmonica to my lips, something strange came upon me. An invisible force induced me to return to the river. With each step, my impatient senses burned to play my instrument. Wading across the Mother Ganges stream, I crawled onto my rock. There, as on all other days, I sat on the cold, coarse surface. But today I held the harmonica, and my heart surged with a wave of affection that made my whole body shiver. How could a piece of metal and wood induce such an emotional state? This harmonica had been my dear friend, into whom I poured my intimate feelings of my heart. So confidential was our relationship that I whispered to it secrets that no one but God and I would ever know. It translated my inner joys, sorrows, and aspirations into sweet music. Over time, there had evolved between us the natural dialogue of the player and the played. In many ways, we were like lovers. As if jealous, my harp seemed to demand my full attention now. I wondered what it was I truly desired in my life. Gazing upstream into the distant mountains, a quiet sadness touched my heart. I understood that my trusted companion was now distracting me from my path. Standing on that rock, I peered into the deep blue waters of the Ganges. Then I gazed on my harmonica, knowing there was no other like it within 1,000 miles. Moved, I revealed my heart to my comrade, not in song this time, but in simple words. My dear friend, I thank you for being my faithful companion all these days. In times of pain and loneliness, you have always been there to give me solace and joy. How patiently you heard my innermost thoughts and transformed the words I was unable to speak into songs that touched people's hearts. I wept. Next, I turned my eyes to the holy river and prayed. Mother Ganges, in offering to you what I hold so dear, I wish to offer my unworthy heart to God. Please accept it. With both hands, I pressed the harmonica to my heart and then cast it into the Himalayan breeze. The instrument floated upward and as if in slow motion, and then descended. My heart shivered on hearing the plop as the dear companion disappeared forever in the current of the Ganges. Often the most precious gifts of life come in ways we neither plan nor expect. Some say it is due to chance, others cite karmic destiny, and yet others believe the Lord may intervene in our lives at any moment. One afternoon, as my awareness drifted away from my meditation towards the hymn of Mother Ganges' rushing current, her powerful, gentle waves anthem of wisdom and love. Held captive by that sweet song, I listened effortlessly. This became my meditation. From dawn to dusk, I simply meditated on the song of the river. Days later, while sitting in the crisp winter breeze, I gazed up at the Himalayan sky. Puffs of milky white clouds hovered from a limitless sapphire dome. Below me, the current swirled, rippled and foamed. The sound of the river was a symphony that released me from the shackles of my thoughts. From the river's song emerged thousands of celestial voices, all chanting in unison the sacred syllable Om. The sound captured my mind. Another evening, as the sun was setting, I observed golden winter clouds floating in the deepening blue sky. The mountains were cloaked in a gown of purple and appeared so alive, I felt them to be breathing. Flocks of white cranes, black nightingales, green parrots, and birds of vibrant blues, reds, and oranges soared across the sky, each chirping, warbling, or trilling in its own sweet song. Except for the bird song, that evening the Ganges Valley was still with an almost mythical silence. My mind floated, recalling how God had taken from me so little and given me so much. For a moment I contemplated that to the degree one feels unworthy of grace, one will be grateful when it comes. It is gratitude that makes the heart receptive to receive the Lord's blessings. Closing my eyes, I merged again in the endless chant of Om, the river's song. It was just so beautiful. I felt on the verge of something extraordinary. Then I heard something that seemed to ascend from the depths of the Mother Ganges' heart. The choir of thousands of celestials sang a slow, entrancing song that seemed to reverberate throughout the river valley. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Through the song of the river, I felt God had whispered this beautiful mantra into my ears. It was a mythical rite of passage, carrying me on a wave that lifted me closer to my aspiration. My heart soared with gratitude. Inadvertently, I found myself breaking my long silence and singing these words aloud with the river. No intoxication on earth could come close to that experience. The meaning of their song was unknown to me, but it stole my heart. What did it mean? I believed that this mystery, like the mystery of the picture of the blue boy, would be revealed in time. In sacrificing the song of my harmonica, I had inherited the song of the Ganges. Alrighty, I think that was my allocated paragraph there. And are you guys there?
Yeah, yeah. It was such a lovely excerpt. I really like that reading actually. I like how Radhanath Swami, he has this he's just so aware of his environment, and he like notices the details and everything, and it really comes out in his descriptions when he's describing things. So it was so eloquently, and even very poetic as well. And he gave so many different analogies from nature for life, which is nice. But you can share with us, your thoughts and reflections on this particular section that you read.
Sorry, I didn't hear you very well. You're breaking up there.
So I was just asking if you could share some of your reflections about this particular passage, and what about it really resonated with you.
Well, just before I actually started reading, there was something else that did strike on me that I thought I should share. But not particularly tied up to this excerpt that I read, but when Radhanath Swami was at Swami Chidananda, there was something interesting that he said, and if I may just go ahead and read it.
Sure.
He says, this was when he was attending the lectures with Swami Chidananda in the Swami Sivananda ashram in Rishikesh. Okay, this is what he says. He says, each morning I attended his lectures. This is Swami Chidananda's lectures. He was a thin man with a shaved head and saffron robes, who was revered by both Himalayan ascetics and seekers from the West. Swamiji sat in a cross-legged yogic pose, speaking eloquent English with precise hand gestures. Life is meant for God realization, he emphasized. If you die without attaining God realization, your life is in vain. You have wasted away this precious gift of human birth given to you by God. He identified a common problem. I think this is very interesting. He identified a common problem among spiritual practitioners, whether advanced or whatever. that one can do meditation in the morning and evening, but during the activities and dealings of the day, we show petty-mindedness and selfishness. This, the Swami explained, confidently undid whatever one accomplished in the hours of meditation. I thought it was an important point to remember in our own practices. Never really came across it before, but I have read this book twice now. Like Bhagavad Gita, it's always something new. But okay, so back to where we were reading. Definitely none of what he's saying is an exaggeration from my own experience with the Ganges itself.
Yeah.
You know, it is definitely, I don't know how many of you guys out there are listening have actually been to the Ganges, but it's a mind-blowing experience. And the Ganges at Rishikesh, this is just the beginning. This is just the foothills. You know, you're right down at the bottom. And if you walk along and you go higher up along the banks, you come to all these places like Kunjapuri and Dev-Prayag and whatever. And I tell you, it is more than a magical experience. A magical experience would be like an understatement to tell you the effects of the Ganges. I can fully relate to what he's saying in his excerpt here in the Ganges and his experience. Definitely something amazing. And definitely encourage you guys to go if you get the chance. This is a place to go. I also like how he didn't rush through his this is the beginning of his spiritual awakening, or a more deep beginning of his spiritual awakening. But he doesn't rush. He's imbibing the vibration that he's picking up from the Ganges, starting with the Om mantra and ending off in the Hare Krishna Maha mantra. I thought it was very important that we don't jump the gun, so to speak, in our spiritual quest. You take the time and you have to absorb the spirituality that's coming to you, because we are all at a certain point in our spiritual life and we need to deal with stuff there. And this, in my interpretation, helped him to deal with letting go, like the symbolic letting go, the actual letting go of this harmonica which he held dear to his heart. And you see, in our lives, we are meant to surrender to God. But it's not an easy process, surrendering. And here, he has to give it off in little bits and pieces, and this is what he's done. And he gets awarded this mantra, this Hare Krishna Maha mantra. Yeah. In a nutshell.
I like
Is that okay?
I like that point that you're making of within a spiritual practice we have to actually accept where we're currently at, and that we actually have to deal with whatever that space that we're in and work through whatever, and gradually that process of actually letting go. I think that's like it's a really significant thing, because sometimes letting go is difficult, because it means letting go of what we know, right? It's like we in our comfort zone, this is what we know, and even if it's making us unhappy, it's okay because it's the known. You just stay with it. And sometimes, like when we have to work through our own shortcomings and our own lackings, it's difficult to acknowledge it. So I like the point of actually being patient that you mentioned, to just absorb yourself and to actually allow yourself that time to actually let go of whatever you need to. And it was nicely described how he tossed his harmonica, like basically symbolizing his attachments to the world. And I think a lot of us actually also experience that, because I think it's he developed such a relationship with his harmonica, and then it's sort of like, is a spiritual practice actually going to give me that same sense or a greater sense of joy in life? And I think it's that it's taking that leap of faith, that leap of faith into the unknown. But then also, I mean, the book also is describing his quest, and that section was also he described how he was thinking to himself, who would be his spiritual teacher. So even though we're taking that leap in spiritual life into the unknown, there is a spiritual guide, and they can actually give us direction on how to actually, make that journey more meaningful. And if we're having that sense of not wanting to let go, or the fear of the unknown of spiritual life, then the spiritual guide can actually give us support for that. So I really like that point that you actually made. It was quite nice.
Yeah. Just one thing that comes to mind. I mean, not to labor the point. He makes a comment in his reading that when one is in the river, one becomes affected by it, and if one is standing on the shore, then one can observe. I think also with regards to being able to knowing where you are in your spiritual life, when you are taking that leap of faith into that river, you have to be prepared to learn to swim if you don't know already, and you're going to have to be able to. You have to prepare yourself to fight the battles, because you must remember you're making a challenge now. When you're giving up, like what Radhanath Swami has done here, he's given up. You're making a challenge to the material world, your eternal conditioning with your body, and it's a huge can of worms that you've opened up that you're going to have to deal with, and you have to be ready to face these things in spiritual life. But you're going to make it there, definitely. Where can we get the book? Where can we get the book, Satya?
The book, okay, Abir is one of our, he regularly attends these sessions. He's always into the books. We will check if we actually have stock of this, Abir, and then we will drop you a message on Instagram with the details. So we'll just check, right? If we have any in stock at the moment.
Okay.
Yeah, I like how how he actually he doesn't just whimsically go through anything, Radhanath Swami. Like even when he was meditating on the Himalayan mountain range, to him he saw the heart of God, like solid and just so vast and just so generous and giving. And it's incredible of how he actually comes to these realizations just from being so observant of his environment and connecting that with the divine. So that was quite nice. And he was describing how that within a spiritual practice we encounter that experience of where it feels like it's an uphill climb, and it will be that way, so he's got a lot of analogies in there as well. So that was quite lovely as well.
Yeah, definitely. You know what I like about his another thing that just came to mind now. Sometimes we can forgive me for saying this, but we tend to see spiritual life as some sort of hippie adventure, and sometimes we'll think, oh well, this description is all well and good, but he doesn't do it that way. It's heartfelt, like you're saying. It's almost like realized knowledge at that point for him. This is what I thought was very interesting. It wasn't whimsical, It wasn't whimsical.
Yeah. It's like the entire book, the journey home. Like when you're actually reading it, it's I think it's that he's so open-minded in his journey, that he's so willing to accept like guidance and knowledge and truth from his environment, and even from. And I think that within that section that you read, he was speaking about grace and how he felt so unworthy of receiving grace. And then he said that that is the degree to which we feel that we're not worthy, is the degree to which we'd actually feel extremely grateful for when we actually do receive it. So I think that's his mood, and it makes him as a person just so conscious of everything that he sees like the deeper value and the deeper meaning of everything. Like he just draws a lot from everything. Like the entire book is like that. So it's quite interesting to read that. But you mentioned that you also you also went to Rishikesh. Would you like to share a little bit with us of your experience there, of what it was like and what places you visited, and also of like because it's a spiritual environment, like how does one actually prepare one's consciousness or in some way to actually tap into that sacred space?
Okay, before I get to that, to answer that question, I just picked up on your point about Radhanath Swami being so open-minded and also very focused and single-pointed in his focus. Can I just read this letter that he wrote to his mother to illustrate that point? He says, "My beloved mother, I'm doing just what I think I should be doing here." That's his pointed focus, right? Rishikesh is a holy city on the banks of the Ganges River. I feel there is much to be learned in peace and tranquility I have found here. It is difficult for me to tell you what I have been doing. I am not so much a tourist or a sightseer. I am more a seeker of my own soul. Living in the East is an entirely different way of life than living in America or Europe. Everything is completely different. It is very difficult to say when I will return, but I will say this. I deeply miss all my family and all of my friends, and I long to see you all. But you must understand that I must carry out what I set east to do, finding the true meaning of life. Your loving son, Richard, Rishikesh, Himalayas, India, January 1971. It's really cool. It's really cool. You know how he brings the open-mindedness and single-pointed focus into one letter. Just brilliant. I just love it. Okay, now my visit to Rishikesh. What can I say? I love traveling, so everything is interesting for me. Very interesting. But Rishikesh, wow, what a place, man. Let's see. We took a train from Delhi. I think it was, 9 hours or something like that. And we reached this place. We reached, what's the one? Haridwar, of course. And then there was a whole bit of haggling with the taxi driver. Being the charwa that I am, I couldn't help it. You know? And but I tell you, every single moment about being close to these holy places is magical. Every second, every bit of air that you take, every bit of breeze that touches your skin, everybody that passes you, all the sounds and the sights, they all are exceptionally crisp and clear. And you actually feel an impetus to just keep going up north, further and further, as far as you can. But unfortunately, time and work commitments here back in South Africa, I had to come back. But given half a second's opportunity, I will definitely do something like that. You know, the Ganges, when you see her for the first time, I mean, if you go further down south in India, she kind of looks polluted and lots of stuff floating around. But up in the north, they've taken a lot more care of her now. They don't allow littering and stuff. And you see this aquamarine crystal icy water coming down. It's definitely not an experience I can describe with my limited English. It's just an heavenly experience. And again, like I said earlier, it's just the start. Of course, I had a chance to swim in there. And I tell you, the water is ice cold, colder than the Atlantic, I suppose, in Cape. But you have like split-second realizations and everything when you're in that water. It's so beautiful. She's so kind. The Ganges is so kind. She's just flowing, patiently tolerating people. I mean, there's all kinds of people that come to Rishikesh for various different reasons. There were people that were smoking on the banks of the Ganges, which I thought was in bad taste. But anyway, they were doing what they were doing. I suppose we have to be a bit open-minded here. But yeah, she was still giving off her mercy. There's a very strong presence of Lord Shiva in that section of India, Rishikesh. And as you go further up, very strong Shivites over there. I mean, just before getting to Rishikesh, we came in from Mathura and Vrindavan, where it was all intense doses of Krishna and Krishna's devotees, you know.
Yeah.
Rishikesh, Haridwar, more laid back, kind of easygoing, you know. In tune with Lord Shiva's mood of being extra merciful to those of us, you know, who need Krishna's mercy, actually. Yeah, lots of nice pastimes. We had the opportunity to go up to Kunjapuri. It's a temple really high up in the mountains there. You climb up some steep stairs. This place is auspicious because when Sati was in the court of her father Daksha, Daksha had obviously just a little bit before that insulted Lord Shiva, who is Sati's husband, and she couldn't tolerate the insults against her husband, so she set herself on fire. She invoked a fire from within herself and burnt herself to ashes. Well, not exactly ashes, she burnt herself. And then Lord Shiva came to take her body. He came there, then there's a whole pastime where he disciplines Daksha and so on, but after that he takes Sati and he walks up to this height of the temple on his way back to Mount Kailash. And Sati's torso falls from his hand. Her body was burnt and pretty badly damaged and stuff. So it falls, and at that point they established the temple. But one of the things that I found absolutely amazing was when you stand on the top of Kunjapuri, just at about 5 to 7 in the morning when the sun is just starting to peep over the horizon, the sunlight reveals the Himalaya mountains to you. And this is like way in the distance, about 200, 300 kilometers. But the Himalayas are so huge, so majestic. And they just get revealed to you slowly with the sunlight. It is another intensely magical experience watching this absolutely beautiful, huge mountain range become revealed to you. Definitely something to look forward to if you're going there. Kunjapuri temple, right up on top of Rishikesh.
Sounds so
Yep.
beautiful. Sounds so beautiful.
Alright.
Abir is asking if you went to Lakshman Jula.
Lakshman Jula, that bridge. Now that was interesting because my wife has a really severe fright of heights, boy. And you know, in India, typical in India, every space is taken advantage. There's nothing that's left unused, you know. And this is a nice bridge. It's you cross over the Ganges from Tapovan over to the other side. It's more or less like a suspension bridge, so you must know it moves. It's slight, but it moves, you know. And Hemalata, my wife, she just wouldn't go across. She wouldn't go across. But anyway, I don't know how, but we convinced her, and then she just started walking straight across the bridge, and she was just like plowing through the crowds, you know, just determined to get to the other side. Because on this bridge, you got people walking, you have motorcycles for Africa up and down in there, and then you even have people that are standing on the bridge to take photographs, one or two traders. Amazing experience. Anyway, you make it over to the other side. There's all these beautiful ashrams and very nice vegetarian restaurants, I have to admit. Of course, I had to say that food is my thing there. And then, yeah, so you got Lakshman Jula and then you got Ram Jula on the other side. Both performing the same functions. Gives you a very beautiful view. Actually, if you look down into the Ganges from the top of the bridge, if you're brave to do so, you see the really beautiful fish, like really big and golden colored, swimming down the bottom.
Seriously?
Yeah, but every angle of the Ganges, from the top, from the side, from the north, from the south, it's just something that you can't take your eyes off, you know. Very nice, very beautiful. Oh, and of course, there was the Ganges Aarti. I don't know if you guys ever experienced that one. That's really amazing. Also, there's I think 20 pujaris I counted, and they do this Aarti for Ganges in the evening, all in unison. Very amazing thing to watch and see. But this happens further down into Rishikesh town, a place called Triveni Ghat. Also, I would recommend you going to see. Well, I mean, the whole visit of Rishikesh, there's never a dull moment. Like in spiritual life in general, never a dull moment. Give it a shot.
Abir's got some comments, and Tiruma also made a comment. He says it was scary and at the same time, and he said, and I thought if I fall, at least I fall into the Ganges. So speaking about being on the bridge, and then Tirumala also made a comment. She says, I really appreciate the points that you made, but especially the point about being patient when you start a spiritual process. It isn't always easy, but important. Thank you for that. So
Yeah, very important to remember that point. I mean, I know when we start our spiritual life in the beginning, it's very enthusiastic, but you must be real also. You know, don't
yeah.
artificially renounce. Definitely don't artificially renounce. You know,
Mm.
nobody's going to judge you. Nobody should be judging you, and we shouldn't judge others. But hang in there, and you just persevere with all whatever baggage you come with. It will pass. It will pass. But you must always remind yourself every day it's going to take time. It's going to take time. It's only by the special mercy that the Lord will pour on you without asking, that you will have these super rapid advancement episodes. But in general, patience and perseverance is the key.
Yeah. I was
Well, I mean, from my experience.
definitely. I was recalling she says that means so much to me, especially right now, Prabhu. She's really appreciating your points. I was this point about progress and patience in spiritual practice. It does come up quite frequently within our sessions. I think with Devakanya it also came up, and I recall a lecture by Radhanath Swami, and he was describing how if somehow we were to actually, if we had the ability to perceive the degree of progress that we've actually made in spiritual practice, then maybe we'd actually be a bit snobby about it. So sometimes our progress actually does get covered where we don't actually perceive it, but the progress actually is there, and that just allows us the opportunity of developing humility, for reaching out for grace, and also striving for deepening our practice. So I really like that point that Radhanath Swami made about that. And I think that a lot of the times we are actually making progress, like, and at times it may feel that like we're so slow or something. But for the space that we're in, the fact that we're making an endeavor, I think that then we definitely receive grace. So I like that point.
Another thing, 2 points. This is why it's important to be able to, we heard it when we go to the temples and all that, it's important for us to reveal our minds in confidence to someone that we trust. So, I mean, there's a couple of things you got to consider is that you must make sure that the person that you can trust is very trustworthy, because sometimes when you have to reveal your mind, you have to open up a can of worms. I mean, I'm in the process of doing that right now. After I finish here, I'm going to continue with my letter to my confident person there, and then I'm opening cans of worms about, I mean, but it has to be done. If you want to make progress, you have to do this. I find a lot of us walk around with facades, and we're just afraid to be judged, basically. But just reveal your mind, admit to where you are, and just keep going ahead. I just wanted to bring another point that His Holiness Kadama Maharaj spoke about when I was getting initiated. They give that class before you take your vows and everything. And he was saying that we are at the airport lounge now, and we are about to take off. So you start your spiritual life, you take off really nice. The best part of the trip, actually, flying is the taking off and landing. But in between, it feels like you're not going anywhere. You're just hearing the hum of the plane, but you are soaring through the air. Definitely, you are soaring 800 kilometers an hour, but you're moving. But it just feels like you're not going anywhere. So on days like that, just try and remember that analogy of the airplane ride and keep flying.
I like that point also. It's quite encouraging, actually. Because I think in spiritual practice, often it's that I think we're so used to measuring things in a sense where we can like see something. Like we always want to quantify everything. Like, but
Yes, very
I think
important point.
yeah, but I think to some degree in a spiritual practice, uh, measuring progress it also just means it is also just like what have I actually left behind? Like, what am I doing right now? Would I actually be able to leave my spiritual practice like just like that? And those things are also it also determines our progress as well. So I think it's how we measure it as well, and I think measuring it is also reflected in our interest. What is our
Mm,
interest? Is our interest in things
mm,
that will just like completely degrade us? Our consciousness, is it harmful to other
mm,
people? But if it's something that's
mm,
beneficial to ourselves and developing qualities that we're able to start extending ourselves to others, and it's also beneficial to other people, then that's also progress as well. So I think it's multifaceted, measuring spiritual
mm.
progress and the effects of it. But the effects are definitely there. um, but it's just how we actually sort of determine what
Yep,
it actually
definitely,
so
definitely, definitely.
I really like that points that you and Tirumala were speaking about patience. I don't
What
know
to
if
do? We have to find we have to find these signs of direction on the road. It is also a journey.
it is
You can't
definitely
you
a
can't go
journey.
without. Yeah,
Um, just
that's
on
why
that,
faith is always required.
yeah, on
Mm.
that, we have a few minutes left actually. But on that point you were
Mhm.
mentioning about, you know, finding association where we're actually able to describe what's within our consciousness and actually be honest with where we're actually at. I think that's also an integral component in actually making progress. But at the same time, I think also when we actually do seek that sort of association, we also have to be sure that that person, apart from just being somebody that you can confide in, is also somebody that you have faith enough that if they actually give you some sort of direction, that you actually would be able
Mm.
to take it and apply it
Yeah,
in your life. Because I
yeah,
mean, we can have a conversation with someone and then they just sort of like, yeah, that's so terrible. Like, and you stay in that zone of negativity. Or with somebody that's like, they completely hear you out and like, this is where you're at, but then they don't give you some sort of direction. But then when we do encounter
mm.
somebody that can give us that direction, then we also have to have enough faith in that person from their character to also be inspired enough to actually apply it in our lives and be patient enough, like you were emphasizing, that we will
Mm.
see results as well.
Yeah. Basically, you have to calibrate yourself to whoever it is you're confiding to.
Mm,
Connection, like how we
it's
do in the internet world. Everybody has to make the connection. You know, then only the information flows freely between the two parties when the connection is there. You guys at the temple know what happens when the internet goes down. And I know too. So that's why we have to keep the connection going.
yeah, but I think also it's like, but just on that same point of association that you were making, I think also it's that we should also become that person. That person that we're looking for to actually confide in, that person that we're looking for to gain guidance in terms of like, actually giving somebody direction, but also just in terms of character. I think also we could work on that, and we can also give inspiration to others. And it's not just not from like an egocentric sort of sense, but just by when we absorb from our own spiritual teachers, if we love that, what we absorb, then that's all we have to actually give. And in that way, we also then giving ourselves to other people, and allowing them that opportunity to actually have a person to confide in. So I think it's both, you know. It's we seek and then we also give as well.
Cool, man.
Cool. So I don't think that there's any other comments or any other questions.
I'm sorry, it's just the sound is a little bit crazy, yeah. So I'm not hearing everything you're saying, but I kind of got the idea. Sorry.
Okay. So we have a few minutes left, and then our session is gonna cut off Instagram. But we're very grateful to
Cool.
Naamamrita for having set aside this time on a Monday, on a Saturday morning to spend with us reading from Radhanath Swami's book, The Journey Home. And Tirumala is saying, thank you, really appreciate today's reading. I also appreciate it. It was really nice points. And I really like the whole meditation on the Ganges. It was very beautiful. So with that, if you would like to find out more about the book, you can drop us a message, and then Abir, we will find out if we have any in stock at the moment, and we'll share the details with you. Also, the description that Naamamrita was giving about Lord Shiva and Sati and all of that, that's also described in another literature called the Srimad Bhagavatam in the earlier cantos. So if you're also interested in the Bhagavatam, you can drop us a message and we will connect with you. So with that, we've come to the end of the session, and Abir is saying, thank you, this book is needed for me to read. You really like this book. Actually, Abhi's got a list. He was also interested in Shrutakirti's book as well. So I think we're going to have to make a book package for Abhi. Okay. So with that, we've come to the end of today's session. And thank you so much, Naamamrita, for reading with us. And we hope to connect with you again for another session in the weeks that follow. So with that, Hare Krishna, everyone. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Haribol. This was very nice.
Thank you so much. And I especially I liked all of your reflections and your thoughts, and they were so valid, you know. I really sincerely appreciated them. So, Hare
No
Bol.
worries. Hare Krishna.